Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, movie reviews, otherworldly, and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. And you can also go to our website, creepinitshow.com.
Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show. I am one of your hosts, Miss Moni, and today we have some really intense stories about a ghost hunting that happened at my library. But before we dive into things, I would like to introduce my co-host, Mr. Yardley. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm really excited to hear the library story today.
Good, cool. And Miss Christy, what's going on with you?
Hey everybody, happy October. So excited. I think we're going to do some good stuff this month. I think this is a great launch pad onto it, and I can't wait to hear about your crazy ass experience.
Yeah, so speaking of, by the way, you mispronounced Rocktober because it's the best month of the year. But
my apologies.
Christy was just getting us up to date on how many amazingly ridiculous amount of downloads and extra followers we've received just every day. It's growing leaps and bounds. And this story tonight actually comes by popular demand from creepers that have been asking, saying that they've been dying to hear the library story. So we just wanted to take a quick second to say thank you so much for all your support. And we're going to keep doing this thing because you guys seem to like it and we're having a lot of fun doing it. So any final thoughts from the host before we start up?
No, October is great. Are all of your jobs really involved in the whole Halloween and October thing? Is my job, because we have like the pumpkin carving contest. We have the costume, contest, and there's real bread behind those. So do y'all get involved at your workplaces?
We will probably do costumes, and not very many people that work for the library really participate. So this year I'm going to incentivize them or voluntold them to do it. And also we have a pumpkin craft that we're doing with the adults. Of course, lots of pumpkin or Halloween story times for the kids. And our book themes for the book clubs are pretty Halloween based. And then we've got like displays up. The children's department already has all of their Halloween stuff up. They have these really cute little ghosts that are like hanging around in the library. And we need to get with it and get our decor up. So yeah, just we do a lot over there. I mean, that's kind of our job for the library though, is to kind of like be themed to whatever's going on at the moment. But definitely this is a time of year that we're actually happy to really do that, I think. What about Christy?
I don't really know what we do for Halloween because I've never been, I haven't worked for this company that long. I would probably think they're judging by the people that not gonna happen. But
Aww.
It's okay because at my house we make kids cry. So we make up for it at the house.
As one should.
Literally, we have a zombie baby riding a tricycle, giggling.
Nice.
And,
I remember that one.
Yeah, and smoke machines. And we have new things we're buying this year. And it ain't gonna, the kids are too scared to come up into our driveway to ask us for candy. So we're proud of that. We wear it like a badge. And
so you're Claire Dunphy.
Totally. I am all about the Halloween. And so I feel like I make up for it so that it's good probably that my job is halfway normal and has like a normal perspective, because if I had lived the craziness and wonderfulness 24 hours a day, I might never return. So they probably keep me a little bit grounded.
Nice. Well, speaking of being grounded or not, I am definitely gulping my drink a little bit right now in preparation to tell this story because I am shook. And as silly as I often am on this podcast and in real life, I'm a little shook about everything that I'm about to recount. So hopefully I will remember everything that I'm about to, the story, everything that happened the other night. So basically, Um, I posted on our Facebook page and I've talked about Sarge and he's connected to this. There's a whole lot of other different things going on with this story. But just to remind everyone or to catch anyone up who hasn't heard, we have an employee pseudonym is Sarge. That's what we call him. But he was actually several staff members saw a young woman following him in the lobby after we had closed one night. And the problem with that was they got super annoyed that he hadn't finished getting everyone kicked out of the building so that we could go home for the day. And they were like, hey, get that lady out of here. And it turns out there was no one. Mm-hmm. They checked the footage and they never saw anyone on the video camera, but they were able to make a drawing that I posted on our Facebook page about 2 months ago of what they claimed to have seen. And they said it was clear as day. I mean, she followed him across the lobby as if he was going to go help her at the reference desk. And, just keep that story in mind as one of many things that I'm going to talk about tonight. But basically that something female has continued to try and reach out to Sarge in his personal life as well, stemming back from Okinawa, maybe more than one female. But at the end of the day, in the library was witnessed a young girl following him around. So cut to, well, it gets crazier. So
hey, question.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Is Sarge the guy who I think he is, who has communication with us online? And I won't say what communication is the online. Is that the guy?
I don't think so. No, okay. He's a pretty quiet guy, and he listens to the show, but he just hasn't wanted people to think he's crazy, and I don't blame him. And after you hear what has been trying to reach out to him, you will not blame him either.
So the guy on Twitter that always is very supportive of our show. He always talks about our show. You don't know who that is, right?
No.
Does his name start with an S?
No.
Okay, it's not the guy. All right.
Interesting. Well, that's cool. Shout out to that supporter as well.
He knows you, and he talks about...
That's Steve. Yes.
I didn't want to say his name.
I used to work with him. I used to work. No, he probably doesn't care. Hi, Steve. Shout out. You're a big supporter of the show.
We love you, Steve. Thank you.
Yeah,
so much
he's amazing. He used to work with me at the last library that I worked at, and he retired. And he's a great guy. So
huge horror fan, by the way, and I love it. So good guy.
He's
Steve.
a comic guy, pop culture guy. He's good
amazing.
People. I see him at all the cons. So yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Sorry to get off on the subject. I just wondered
That's okay.
if that was him.
So about 2 years ago, we had a paranormal investigator, Nicole Strickland and Allie. I don't have Allie's last name, but they're from the San Diego Paranormal Research Society, and they are authors, they are lecturers, and they are investigators, most particularly with the Buena Vista Adobe and the Queen Mary. They've been on various ghost hunting kind of TV shows, and they're very, very science-based in what they do. Go give them some love, San Diego Paranormal Research Society. If you're local in Southern California, they do come out and do lectures or ghost hunts like this, bring all kinds of equipment. They're amazing. They're great people. So they did an investigation in the library 2 years ago and got some really amazing, like what they call Class A EVPs, electronic voice phenomena, where intelligent beings, they would, Nicole, for instance, saw a copy of her book on what was then my desk, and she's like, oh, there's my book. And clear as a bell, a man's voice on the EVP later on when they checked said, yeah, and it's great.
What?
So, yeah, they caught some really crazy, really super cool lights moving. They set up, I don't know what the equipment's called, but they set up some lights. They caught footage of like the lights being played with when they asked them to be, like all kinds of stuff at the library. So that was 2 years ago. They came back to do an investigation this past Saturday. And right off the bat, so I don't think I've posted this on our Facebook page. There's so much to tell here, you guys. Okay, I'm going to try to remember everything. I have the most gross looking size 13 male bare greasy ass footprint on this cabinet that's in my office. And yeah. And the thing is, it's up kind of high. It was a right foot, and it's kind of like at a weird angle. And that cabinet is relatively new to me. It used to be in the administrative office. It's never laid on the ground where someone would step on it. That's a high fucking kick for a person to have kicked up that high. It looks like someone's ass like walked barefoot on my yeah, and I made every man in the building, including the custodians, come by and show me their shoe size, because I was like, who the fuck, at first I was just like convinced that someone was kicking my shit, and it pissed me off. But nobody in the building, including the custodian, has a size 13 foot. And that's why I know it's a size 13, is because the closest was a size 12, and this was still a size bigger than that. So I've tried to wipe it off. It doesn't wipe off well. I'm going to use a heavier cleaner when I get back from New York. But in the meantime, Nicole and Allie arrived on Saturday for the paranormal investigation, and I let them know about the footprint, since we haven't been able to figure it out from a non-ghost perspective, basically. And as we were having these conversations and discussing what we were going to do for the investigation, we 100% had this, all of us, there were 4 of us, my friend Katie, who's been on the podcast, and then these 2 women. We were certain that something was watching/listening, and we didn't feel creeped out, but like something was very curious in the fact that we were about to come try to make contact with them. And so they actually, like I said, they're very professional. They use some meters to look for like extra electrical, I don't even know, EMF or whatever. They were looking for like fear cages, anything in the building that has a higher frequency that could cause a feeling of paranoia or anxiety in a human body. And definitely noted the levels in certain places where we have electrical panels and things that would cause a little bit of that feeling. But none of that exists like in my office area. So we started to walk out and take a little tour of the building, and we all kind of stopped. We're like, do you hear that? All 4 of us hear a man's voice. And 3 out of the 4 women went, yes, his name is Bill or William. Like in unison at the same time, 3 out of 4 of us knew what this guy's name that was watching us was.
Wow.
Yeah. So we headed out to the, it's intense. It gets so much more intense. It's like a fucking horror movie. We go out to the teen area, and we've got all the lights off, and it is now about 1 a.m. So it's now technically Sunday morning. Every light is out at the library. We closed all the blinds because we were getting a lot of bounce back from like the headlights and things. We kind of noted who was in the area living, outside, so that we could ignore the sound of their voices. They have a whole protocol for how they handle, like, you can't whisper because you need to know who's talking and what's an EVP. But we went out to this area in the library that they had caught a lot of activity 2 years ago when they investigated. And they brought out a spirit box. So are you guys familiar with spirit boxes?
Yes. Is that the one where they choose words and the words pop up?
A spirit box, at least my understanding, at least this kind that they brought, and they each brought a different one, and there were 2 different brands. And so they experimented using both, like at different times, just to see if we could get the same type of results. It is made to go between different radio stations. So the first one we put, I think, on an AM frequency, and it travels between the radio stations with the intention of making white noise that spirits can potentially use to have their voices heard. So fuck a bunch of spirit box, by the way. You'll see why in a minute. But, I am a person who I told you guys about a couple weeks ago. I did a Ouija board in a graveyard. I give 0 fucks. I'm not afraid of stuff like that. I will never do a spirit box again. I want to cry just thinking about it. So this thing is going back and forth between channels, and pretty immediately, multiple voices, not on the radio, like as answering questions. And they do a lot of like quizzing these things. They'll be like, what area of the library are we sitting in? Like, what is the color of her dress? Like things like that to kind of see if it's an intelligent haunting and what it will respond to. So all of a sudden, they started asking about Sarge and if anything had been wanting to talk to him. And inexplicably, just like what happened to me in the graveyard a couple weeks ago, myself and Katie, we weren't looking at each other. Her back was to me. We started crying. We just started crying. We didn't know why. And it turned out that the spirit that was trying to talk to us named the name of I can't get into it too much because it's a real sore subject in my community, but a murdered young lady whose killer was never found, and has a lot of ties and connections to people in the library, to the library itself, to areas right, like directly across the street from the library. She has a lot of connections to us and to that area. Very young and was murdered badly. Not that any murder is good, but she said her own first name, and she said it 3 separate times very clearly. They asked her to repeat herself, and they said, well, if you are this person, what is your last name? She clearly came up with her last name.
Whoa.
And all 3 of us are crying. Yeah. I mean, all 4 of us are just bawling. Like, we had to stop for a second and like walk away from the table. We were just crying so hard. We asked what she wanted to say. She said that she wanted to reach out to her mom. And we asked what she wanted to say to her mom. And she said, all of a sudden, the spirit box stopped on a radio station, which it's not supposed to do. And it was playing Someone to Watch Over Me. And it stayed there for a little bit while we actually sat and like discussed it and tried to get ourselves together. We continued trying to communicate with her, but what was happening was we were getting so many different, someone said their name was David, a whole different voice said his name was Virgil. We basically had to stop because at a certain point we felt like physically as if we were surrounded on all sides. Our hair was getting touched, and actually when one person mentioned that her hair was being touched, I looked and could see her hair visibly like moving upward, not in a way that like the wind would take it or the air conditioning would take it. When we went back to using the second spirit box, the thing that said its name was Virgil, they asked who Virgil wanted to talk to, and at that point they offered to allow whatever was trying to talk to us to use our energy to do so. Virgil clearly opted to use my energy because I immediately became pretty nauseous and his voice became stronger. They asked him if he was the one who left the footprint in my office. He said yes. And at a certain point, I stood up because I was it was a little intense, and I was wearing leggings, but I was wearing a dress. And my dress started doing some Marilyn Monroe shit, right? Like the bottom. Mm-hmm. And at first, I'm trying not to freak out. I'm like, I am sensitive to things. I can tell that nothing means us harm at the moment. But I was like, hee, neat. Like, I was like, oh, guys, my dress is going up. And I kind of thought that by calling it out, it would stop. But everyone looked over and had a chance to see it. And as they saw it, it continued to go up and kind of outward, as if someone was putting their hand between my dress and my stomach. And I got a really, really cold sensation on my stomach. And I said, that's enough. You can't touch me like that. I'm not comfortable with that. And they asked it to stop, and it stopped.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty intense right there. I mean, wow.
Yeah. So then at some point, investigator Nicole got up, and I may be telling this out of order. It was an intense, I don't even remember all the things. It was very uncomfortable. I mean, trying to put yourself in our shoes, even if you don't believe in ghosts, if you felt like all of a sudden a group of complete strangers surrounded you and all wanted to talk to you and we're all trying to talk at the same time about different things, it was pretty overwhelming. And, we had light sensors up on one side. Those were getting played with when we would ask them to be. We had different recording devices. I have not seen or heard any of the results yet. They're going to be presenting those on the 20th at our program, so I'll get to hear if there's any EVPs that came out, clearly. I'm a little nervous to hear some of these things. But at some point, Nicole thought she saw about a 6-foot-tall man. This was around the time Virgil was doing things in the stacks, in the library shelvings, and she walked over there and she lost her shit. And I have never seen her be anything but utmost professional. She swore and yelled back, and her colleague Allie was like, I have never seen you behave that way. Spit it out. Are we in danger? What's going on? And she's like, I thought I saw something. I went over there, and all of a sudden someone was making chewing sounds right in front of my face, right by her.
Oh God, that's my worst nightmare.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't like chewing sounds. I'd be like, what is this hell?
Well, and it's like,
No.
I'm like, okay, chewing, he's probably just like an old library patron that's eating when he's not supposed to be in the stacks. But, I watch too many damn horror movies, as all three of us do, because this is what we do. And I'm just like, what if he's like chewing because he's eaten the soul of his last victim? Like, I'm just totally gone at this point. And Katie and I had felt the back of our chairs being pulled, like they're heavy wooden chairs for the intention of so they don't fall over when they're getting heavily used by library users. We had kept feeling like our chairs were being tugged on, like maybe we're imagining things, but we both felt it multiple times. And we were sitting at a separate table right next to the table that the other two ladies were sitting at. And all of a sudden, now California has a lot of earthquakes. We know what those feel like. It felt like there was an earthquake, but just inside that table itself, to where it suddenly, and it's a heavy ass, big old 8-foot wooden table with like metal legs. It came at Katie and I, basically. Katie ran away from it. I jumped away from it, and the thing kept moving to where even the other two ladies turned and had a chance to see it moving. And the thing is, if you've ever lived through an earthquake, it's an initial jolt, and we've had them in the library, so we know exactly what that building is like during an earthquake. Like, there's a jolt, and then everything else keeps shaking. Nothing else was shaking. As soon as we all freaked out about the table, it stopped shaking, and we basically had to take a break after that because it was just too intense. There was just way too much going on, noises all around us, whistling, banging, voices. It didn't feel like anything wanted to harm us, but as living people who can't see or know what's going to happen next, it was fucked up. So we took a break and came back to it, and the rest of the night was relatively uneventful. We investigated different areas of the library. We may get some good EVPs, but that was a good hour of time that all of this stuff happened. So yeah. And then to make things worse, and I know that this is probably just a coincidence, I don't feel like anything followed me home. I haven't had any bad dreams myself that I can remember. My oldest daughter, who is closer to the age of the young lady who was killed, had a dream that her toys came alive. Like that night when I got home, or the next night, I had a dream that her toys came alive and stabbed her in the exact manner. And she's never had a dream like that. In the same manner, she was killed in the same manner as this young murder victim. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you guys have any questions or comments, but that's...
Well, I think one of the things that makes this even more amazing is just the fact that it's shared experience with other people, and you always have someone to back you up on things that happen. I mean, that's pretty intense. And you said an hour. I know it probably felt like 3 hours.
Oh my God. It felt like my whole life was passing and ending there. And, Nicole was saying, and they're not the ghost adventure people. They're like, oh God, what's that? They like, that's not their style whatsoever. And, she's like, I've done the Queen Mary. I've done haunted insane asylums, that have been closed down. I've done all these places. And this was the most good evidence, like provable, semi-provable activity that she has ever experienced at any one time. She said that that table, she's like, I've never felt that amount of, she said, kinetic energy in one place at one time that would allow a table that size to move to that degree. So we had a wild time.
So my question is I know all the activity is happening, but what is y'all's take on that moving forward? Like, how do you package that up and just move on with the fact that that's happening?
I think what happened was I've mentioned this before, we have a dialysis center directly across the street from us. We have a mortuary on our campus. And, our building isn't that old. I'm not sure what was there before. But we also have a lot of transients. We have a lot of older people that spent their whole life coming to our library. Like, we also have a lot of, obviously, donated items. items that might have meant a lot to people, even if they just checked them out as casual users. We have a lot of old things. We have a lot of historical artifacts. And I really think that it's not necessarily that the library, I mean, obviously there's a couple spirits that must be around, but I also think that the library isn't necessarily as haunted as the amount of energy we had that night would allow us to believe. I think that there were enough different things that we were trying to reach out that kind of were excited to have really fun. I mean, they Nicole and Allie kind of take it as like a playful thing. They're like, come play with our lights, come do this. Like, it's really neat. You can touch that. And I think that there may be things that were in the area or happened to be there at that time were sort of like, wow, this is really neat. Let's all go try to have our story heard. And it just kind of got to be a lot at once, especially when you offer them the opportunity to use your energy, because they've got 4 people now that they're sucking off of to do these things. As far as how to move forward, I went back to that physical area of the library, and I kind of was like, I must have sounded like a crazy person before we opened. And I said, I know that you have reached out to me. I know that you want to talk to me, and I'm cool with that, but please don't go out of your way to scare me. I think you didn't realize how intense that was. Please don't touch me anymore, and we can talk whenever you want. So that part's fine. As far as the murder victim, I don't know. We're not going to talk about that part at all when we do the program. When we talk about the findings.
No, I mean, I don't blame you.
And her family has moved away and moved on. So it's like, even though she kind of wanted us to reach out to her mom, I don't think we would ever bother her mom about this. So it's just kind of, Sarge may want to kind of talk to things or not talk to things. He kind of doesn't want to be involved in some of this stuff. I really think, I kind of had this conversation with what I was talking to that night, but, I kind of said, maybe you feel safe to tell him your story and to tell him who did this to you, possibly. And because that also that he can feel things sometimes. And I don't know how to proceed, quite frankly. I'm a little bit at a loss with like trying to get rid of that footprint and having it not go away, and just it's a little rough moving forward. Like I said, when I said I was shook, I wasn't joking.
Wow.
Well, I think I would. I think
where do we go from there?
Yeah, because it's almost like when you were, when you were telling the story, it was just back to back, one thing. So that is intense. And I mean, an hour is a long time for a lot of things, like this to happen. So, oh man, that's some good stuff.
So there's your spooky story. If you don't think it's true, that's fine too, but it's still a damn good story. And with that, I think we should move forward into talking about some of the things, one of the things we like to do on this podcast, we feel like we're sort of, dialed into spooky, what's next in creepy pop culture, as we mentioned in our intro. So I think Yarley's going to go first and talk about some of the things that he is watching, that he wants to be watching, and that he recommends that you watch as well.
Well, everybody knows that October is an exciting month for horror, and everybody knows that my jam is Netflix. So Making a Murder Season 2 is out on Netflix. It's a lot of true crime stories. Do either of you check that out?
Well, I've seen the first one. I didn't know they were doing a second one. I kind of thought The Staircase was the second one. So now I'm really excited.
Yeah, and they are adding The Shining. We all know that's Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. And the newest entry, which I think was just a few days ago, is Hold the Dark. It's a suspense action thriller with Jeffrey Wright. A lot of people know him as Benjamin in Westworld, and also in Boardwalk Empire.
I love him.
Yeah,
I love Boardwalk Empire, and I love Westworld. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. And then we've got Alexander Skarsgård, and that's Bill Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise. Yep,
yes. That's
his brother.
I love Alexander because I think he's way hotter.
Oh man, that's That's oh
Yeah,
yes.
it's a pretty good cast. Now, let me give a quick summary. After the deaths of three children suspected to be killed by wolves, writer Russell Core is hired by the parents of a missing 16-year-old boy to track down and locate their son in the Alaskan wilderness. And
Wow.
yeah, it's over 2 hours long, but it seems like they have the talent that are involved in this movie that'll make it palatable for that amount of time. So I definitely look forward to diving into that. Um,
Is that a Netflix special, or is that just
yeah, it's
something
on.
that
It's Netflix.
okay.
Yeah, I think it's there.
All right.
If I'm not mistaken. Okay, and there's also Killer Kate, which comes out on October the 26th. Stars Alexandra Feld, Danielle Burgess, Morris Davison. The summary goes as follows: Kate attends her estranged sister's bachelorette party at the request of her dying father. The weekend, which is spent at a remote cabin booked in a home sharing app, turns into a savage fight for survival. So,
Well, you knew this was coming.
yeah.
Home
So,
I'm interested
home
in it. That's
apps.
awesome.
Home apps turned into disaster. VRBOs and Airbnbs.
Mm-hmm.
Nightmare.
yeah, and you actually had brought this up before we recorded the show. You were talking about Mandy, and I think this movie, that's the
Yeah.
one with Nicolas Cage, correct?
Yeah, I've been hearing about it.
Yeah, because it's a movie set in 1983 where Red Miller, a broken and haunted man, hunts an unhinged religious sect who slaughtered the love of his life. If you haven't had an opportunity to watch a trailer, it's pretty good, and the buzz seems to be pretty positive around the movie. So I think I'm leaning towards diving in on that as well.
I'm
Where will it
hearing.
be available? Is it a Netflix, or where will I be able to see that one?
I think, isn't this a theatrical release?
It
Oh, no
was
fun.
it was a limited release, but you can get it apparently online. It's weird. I'll try to see if I can get some
Oh,
links.
it's available Prime Video
Yeah,
right
it's
now to
weird,
rent.
yeah.
So
So if you don't have it, there's also limited theater release, but apparently Nicolas Cage is reviving his name, and I didn't even know that was possible, but apparently people are saying that this movie is changing his name.
interesting.
Well, fill
So-
me in on Nicolas Cage. Like, why, when you say he's changing, like, what happened? I just thought that he just kind of.
So when this movie first came into production, they came to him and wanted him to play one of the villains, and he said no, and he held off for years. And then finally, because they knew, okay, this guy's going to be the ticket to getting this thing produced, said, okay, fine, you can play the hero. And all the people that I've heard in all the horror podcast corners are saying he has revitalized himself. I mean, look, after I saw Wicker Man, I said he cannot come back from that. That is horrible. That is one of the worst movies I have ever seen. But they're saying he has done something with this, and now I'm really excited because these people, like, they know their shit. So I don't want to, turn up the expectation so then we are disappointed, but people are saying he did a pretty bang up job.
Okay, well, I'm
Nice.
definitely gonna have to check that out. Is there anything that I did not bring up that y'all are watching that you want to put the creepers onto?
I did join Shudder, the SHUDDER app. I'm pretty impressed with it. I don't know if it's because I've joined it a month before October, which is like the biggest celebration of that horror of the year. But I've been enjoying a lot of shows. I'm trying to remember everything, and I apologize that I can't remember everything. But I did want to tackle a few movies I have watched that I thought I've never heard of, and I saw it, and it was a very solid movie. So some of these, you're going to watch them and you're going to think, probably not the best special effects or whatever, but I think the plot and I think what they have done with it was pretty solid. So, Stillborn, my husband watched that with me, and it freaked him out. And he's not really like the biggest horror person.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like watching the movie with me and then watching the Cubs. And he put the Cubs video down and kept watching with me. So he was like, that freaked me out.
Nice.
So Stillborn,
I've seen commercials for it. It looks interesting.
I had never heard of it until I logged on to Shudder. Apparently, which I know, is Stillborn is about Mary, a new mother, gives birth to twins, but only one of them is alive. While taking care of her living child, Adam, she suspects that something, a supernatural entity, has chosen him and will stop at nothing to take him from her. It was rough to watch, but it was a good solid movie. Threads, okay, oh my god. First of all, Threads was one of the first movies I watched logging on to Shudder. Mm-hmm. And I have never heard of this movie, but apparently it was created in the UK. And it was created in like the early 80s. And it caused like public mayhem when it was shown.
Nice.
So then they shipped it over to the US, and the US watched it in the 80s. Again, caused like chaos, and it was kind of housed for a while. So Shudder got their hands on it, and let me just tell you, like, I thought, oh, you know, what is this? This is some stupid movie from... It fucked with me. So it is not a movie that's like what you're expecting. It is a movie about the nuclear holocaust vision from the early 80s. And it's going to fuck with you. So just know that. Like, I don't have anything else to say. Like, I left that. Cool. I was disturbed, really. Because honestly, I don't think that the vision is gone. I think that's a possibility. Like, I watched it today knowing it was from the early 80s and thinking... Mm-hmm. This is a possibility today. Like, this is disturbing. Right. And wow, I mean, I need to stock water and dig myself a hole. So,
nice.
Do not watch this if you have some sort of, like, apocalyptic fear. Just don't. Okay. Hell House. Not the second one. Do not go near that thing. It was a piece of shit. Sorry, Hell House, but no. The first one is solid, and so I wanted to bring it up because it is on Shudder, and Moni recommended this movie to me, and I watched it, and I thought it was awesome, and it really is, and it still has good ratings, and it's on Shudder right now. Hell House LLC, the perfect Halloween movie to watch right now. Clowns, haunted houses, perfect. 5 years after an unexplained malfunction causes the death of 15 tourgoers and staff on the opening night of a Halloween haunted house tour, a documentary crew travels back to the scene of the tragedy to find out what really happened. Very solid movie. Y'all.
I want to say I think I've seen that.
Well, we recommended it.
Didn't we watch it for the show?
No, we didn't. No. We didn't officially remove it or review it, but you recommended it.
Okay.
So I watched it, and I thought it was a good, solid movie. Part 2, no. Part 2, I got in like 40 or 35 minutes, and I'm like, this is a piece of shit. And I turned it off. Sorry. Couldn't finish it. Sorry. They did not do a good job. So... Speaking of not doing a good job, Storage 24, okay, my son came in while I was watching all of these, and he sat down with me and watched this one, and he honestly is the dude he's 13 years old, does not scare him, nothing scares him. When he was like 10 years old, he would watch a horror movie with me and go right to bed, does not get scared, so I really appreciated him sitting down in watching this movie with me. And the night before, this is crazy, on a whim, I recorded The Great Gatsby from the 70s, not the newest one, and wanted to watch it because I just love that movie. He sat down and watched that with me, and loved it and like was
Aw.
into it. And I'm like, who are you? Are you like an old man? I think he's like an old man in like a 13-year-old body. So he sat down with me and watched Storage 24. In London, a military plane crashes, leaving its highly classified contents strewn across the city. Completely unaware that the city is in lockdown, a group of people become trapped inside a storage facility with a highly unwelcomed guest. I mean, it was a good movie. As Jay, my son, said, the monster is cheesy, but I think the plot is so solid that you're willing to kind of forgive that. So, worth watching. Lovely Molly. Okay, trigger warning. Watched that movie last night. It's rough. It's a good movie. It's a possession, it has drug abuse, and it also has molestation from a family member. So if that's a problem with you, you shouldn't watch this movie. But I felt like everything else in it, like the signs that somebody's using drugs is there, like it's scary, but it's also informative, if that makes any sense. And then at the end, you're just like, what the hell? Like, it's a very good, it's a solid movie. I was creeped out, I was scared, and I felt like besides the sad parts of it that I mentioned before, the movie actually carries itself very well. So another one I would recommend. I'll try to put together, I didn't get the movie or the series of Shudder. I've been watching, I think it's Zero Channel, which was, it was good. Waiting on the second season, so I can't really be, I mean, first season's always really good, so then you don't know what the second season is. I'm talking so much that I can't even form sentences. I'm sorry. Ugh, okay.
It happens.
I need to stop talking. So that's where I'm at with that, and I'm waiting to kind of judge the series. I've got a couple of them I've been looking at, but there's quite a few. So I don't want to go in to say, oh, all the series are so great. But oh my gosh, they have stocked everything on this channel ready for Halloween. So if you're going to spend the money for just 1 month,
Yeah.
this is probably the time to do it. And I'm not here, I'm not getting paid. This is just my opinion because I bought the channel last month and then realized, oh my God, it's October. I should check this out. I had watched a few things before, but I just went on like a crazy marathon this weekend and watched a bunch of them just to see if I can really validate this channel's worth the money. And I can tell you, I really feel like it's definitely worth the money if you are a true horror fan. So
Nice.
that's my take.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah, no, I might check it out. When I get back from New York, which I'm leaving tomorrow, and as you can imagine, I am ready to get away from the library for a few days. In preparation for that, I've been listening to some more things as well, and I heard a really great, Bizarre States podcast. It's put on through Nerdist, and with my spirit animal, Jessica Chobot, did a really interesting episode wherein somebody mentions that, let me just take a look and see if I can, find the name of the episode, but it's their newest one. It's Bizarre States Declassified, and the guest that they have on talks about different kinds of entities and spirits, and she basically is a non-denominational exorcist. Again, listen to the episode, it's really cool, but she mentions that she's asked about does she think that places sometimes have actual demons, because she's not a huge believer that there's a lot of demons, because demons, she says, are things that were created just to be evil. They never were a living human or any of that kind of thing. But she said one location that has such an evil presence living at it and guiding what happens there on a daily basis is the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. And we've talked about it before in context of a murder or possibly a suicide. It was ruled a suicide, a death, mysterious death that happened there. I don't know if you remember, almost towards the beginning of our podcast, we talked about the woman who was found in the water tank after a few weeks of being in there, and people at the hotel were drinking.
I remember that. Yes.
Yes. So one of these things
So
we're
she
going to
was
have
in
to
the
do,
elevator. She was like filmed in the elevator.
having
And she
an
starts
episode
freaking
that may
out.
or may not have been demonic. Jesus, yes. But at any rate, there is a whole lot more murders, rapes, suicide, anything you can think of and things you can't even imagine that have happened at that hotel. I've been listening to several podcasts and reading up on that hotel. But in the meantime, there is a true crime, and it's actually a true crime network. It's just an app available through Amazon Prime. And one of the shows on it is a season's worth. It's already 3 or 4 episodes called Horror at the Cecil Hotel. Now, myself personally, I knew the twist that was happening in the first one because I just know enough about the hotel. But if you don't know anything about it, I mean, even if you do, it's done well. But if you don't know anything about it, at least watch the first episode and see where the twist occurs and see what you think about it, because it's a super interesting show. The app is available for 7 days for free. I think it's only like $3 after that. And like I said, through Amazon Prime, you can just search Cecil Hotel even and it'll come up. So that's one thing that I'm watching right now. I'm bad for our audience. I am remiss in all of these paranormal like reality shows. I mean, of course I've watched Ghost Hunters, who hasn't, but I have never watched The Dead Files or Ghost Adventures.
Oh, I don't watch Ghost Adventures. Ugh.
Okay. I've had them recommended by creepers. I've had them recommended by colleagues. So I am downloading episodes for the plane.
I don't want to be an asshole because I totally support everybody that wants to do paranormal things. Mm-hmm. I love Paranormal Survivor. I love Paranormal Witness. I love Dead Files. She's fucking awesome. She's a psychic working with a cop. Like, how can you, like... I love Haunted Collector. Ghost... Whatever is it called? Ghost
Encounter?
something? What was the one I just said I don't like? Ghost something?
Adventures?
Oh, Ghost Adventures. Okay. I have a problem with him. I don't, he is way over the top. And first of all, I apologize if there's somebody out there that feels like he's great, and I have no problem with you thinking he's great. I personally feel like he is so over the top. He doesn't make any sense to me. He invites all this crazy stuff into his life and then spends the entire time going, "What was that? What just happened? What was this?" It's like, you're in a haunted fucking house. Like, it's weird. He just doesn't support what he's doing. It's weird. I don't believe in it. He's all weird. He bought a house that was haunted and made this whole thing about it. And it was just a dud, and it was a nightmare. He didn't do it the right way, and I'm saying he didn't. I mean, maybe he did. I don't see any kind of success out of it. It's just bizarre. I think he's a huge following. He could do so much more than with what he's doing, and I don't see it. So, apologies to all the paranormal ghost people that are listening and telling me I'm an asshole. I'm probably an asshole, and that's okay. I'm totally willing to accept that, but I will not watch a show. I get on the Travel Channel waiting for Paranormal Witness, Paranormal Survivor, all the shows that I like, that I know are real and legit stories. I feel like he shows up at places and invents them. I'm not feel like a real, I'm not seeing it. So, that's just my opinion. That's my review.
All right.
You watch
I am
it
remiss in
and
watching
you tell
any of
me-
these.
Yeah, you watch it and tell me how wrong I am. So
I will watch it and see what I think. Are there any of these that you like to watch at all, Yardley? Paranormal reality shows, or that's not really your jam, huh?
No, not really. Not really. I mean, once upon a time, like if I was drinking and someone had it on, if someone already had it on, I would, watch it. But it's definitely no, no.
Nice. Well, having lived this shit recently,
Yeah.
I'm anxious to see how this compares. It'll probably be so boring compared to what I went through. But in the meantime, I will be going to, I've mentioned it before because I'm a fan of the book. I liked the original movie. It doesn't have great ratings, but Haunting at Hill House, Netflix has a series that's dropping October 12th. And I was invited to this midnight screening in New York City. So hopefully if I make it to that, I will be able to give you guys some feedback, a little sneak peek before it actually drops. So that's going to be on Netflix. And another thing that just came to my attention, apparently it came out in like 2014 or 2015, but there's a short or a Netflix original that has some good reviews called Creep, and I have not seen it yet. So, but I am planning on watching it. It's supposed to be about a man that is invited to come do some filming for another man who is basically dying. And of course, he's in a remote location. And all hell breaks loose. So and I think it
What
looks like
could
found
go
footage.
wrong?
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
think it
it.
looks like found footage, but it's from
Yeah.
like 2015. So it's been on Netflix for a minute, but I would like to watch it, and maybe you guys want to watch along, and we can compare our notes at the end.
I've seen
my
it.
dog is losing his shit. Sorry, guys. You have seen it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Are you kidding?
Like it?
Of course. It was good. It was good. I mean, I'm not gonna review it just yet.
Goes
I'll let
into
y'all
rant
watch it.
like you did
I'm
with
not gonna.
the.
I'm not shutting shit down. No, he's got a following that disturbs me. So like I'm like not okay with that. But no, the movie was good. I mean, whatever. We'll review it. So we'll review it. That's fine.
Sorry, I had to kick that fucking dog out. Anyway, and with that, do any of you guys have something, I guess either of you guys, there's only two of you, to add before we wrap it up with our socials?
You know what? The scariest thing that I've seen recently is Monster Energy drinks now makes coffee drinks.
Oh,
So
I've seen
that's
those.
pretty scary. So I figured I'd throw that out there.
Hey, Yardley.
Mm-hmm.
Can I commit you to do something really scary this month?
And what would that be?
Go to IKEA. No, I'm just kidding. What if we go to like some sort of haunted like ghost hunt or something? Would you want to do that?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, no,
Okay,
the-
on the
the
spot
reason-
or anything, but everyone's listening.
No, it just depends on when. You know what I mean? Because
Okay.
I'll
Totally.
you
No,
you know,
I'll work
yeah,
with
just let me
you
know.
and we'll see. I want to set something up. I think it would be really fun if we could get something funny.
There's a lot of stuff jumping off this month.
Totally.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff.
Totally. I think it's time for us East Coast people to kick it in a gear. Moni's over here bringing in the ghosts, and we're like, great.
I know.
Have you
Oh,
seen
y'all
this
gotta-
movie?
I'm the one that-
It's a competition. So
You know what? You just mentioned a haunted IKEA. I just wanted to put it on your radar. There's a book called Horror Store by Grady Hendrix, and it's got really good reviews. And it's tongue in cheek, like a humorous haunted story, but it's about a haunted IKEA. So
nice.
if there's an idea, it's already been done and it's on the internet somewhere. Is all I'm
down
saying.
with that. I'm down with it.
So, at any rate, with that, why don't you give us your social media follows, and also if you guys want to use it to harass him so that he will go with Christy to a haunted location, feel free to reach out and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. and you can follow me on Twitter at militant_Marco.
Yardley, it can't be as scary as the time we were in New Orleans and I tried to fight those ladies. Like, really? You
Yeah.
like...
That was almost a nightmare.
Right? Like, it couldn't be as scary as that when I'm running towards a lady fight and you had to grab me and literally physically hold me back from fighting people because we had been drinking fireball shots in Mardi Gras.
Oh,
So,
gosh.
couldn't be so scary. So, I think we could be brave and do something like that. Moni, thank you so much for putting this together. I think this is an awesome show. I caved and didn't do the Egyptian shit. I feel like this is a better thing for Halloween. I know when I'm not choosing the right things, and I think this is the great part to launch. I think it's the right idea. So thank you for putting all this together.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing your stories. And I would love, who are all you fucking people? You listen to the show. I don't see one of you on Twitter. For the love of God, come say hi to me on Twitter.
That's
I
because
want
they're on
to see
Facebook
you.
talking to me, so.
I guess. Hey, head over on to the tweeter and say hi to me. Just say hi. If you just literally tweet me hi, I'll at least know this person heard me today. And if we're getting as many downloads as my shit says we're getting, somebody's going to respond to this. So for the love of God, check out @creepin_it on Twitter. That's me. That's all I do for now. Everybody else has been amazing and housing all our other stuff. So thank you guys for listening. That's all I got. Moni, you taking us home?
Yeah, we have the Creepin' It Real show on Facebook. Please find us and like us there. We post a lot of cool stuff. And I am Rebel Moni on Twitter. And I am Moni Bear on Instagram. And I'm certain I'll be posting some of my adventures at New York Comic Con. I will try to dial into some of what's creepy out there as well, because there's always a lot of horror news for fans at these big conventions. And I will be speaking there as well. Shameless plug. So look for the adventures of moi. But thank you for those who wanted to hear the story. Sorry if it might not have been quite as fun or funny or lighthearted as we normally do, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Loved your story.
Yeah, thanks. I would love it if it were just a story and that I hadn't lived it, but you know, it is what it is. So, and after we do our program, which by the way at Escondido Public Library is called Booze and Booze, we are serving samples of craft beer, complimentary from Battle Mage Brewery, which is local here in San Marcos, California. And while Nicole and Allie recount and bring up any evidence found during the crazy night at the library. So it's by registration, but if you want to register, go to Escondido Public Library's webpage. You can just type that into Google and you'll find it. At any rate, if you're local, obviously. But without further ado, I just want to say goodbye. Have a great week, everybody, and thanks again for your support.
Creep it real, y'all.